You're actually part of the Pulaski DNA DNA his
Well,
brother?
it was let me just kind of clarify how this all came about. 1996, they started taking the monument down, and they pulled this box out of the. Paul told you that part, I'm sure.
No, please
Yep.
tell me about it because we
Well, the
need to
monument
record it.
in Savannah was deteriorating, and it was high time to fix it. So a fundraising project started at ACPC. Paul, everybody else was involved in it, and also the city of Savannah. So they got in a company there that disassembled
We raised $1 million to restore the monument.
but they had to disassemble it before they could put it back together, and among other things, they had to make a lot of new parts. And some of the parts it was the statue on top, which was done in a Trenton workshop. It's what's the name of those people?
Yes,
Because we went over there and
New
we saw
Jersey
it before it
porcelain.
was shipped. Yeah, before it was shipped
New Jersey
to
porcelain.
Savannah. And
The statue is made of porcelain?
well, no. See, what they did is they made a mold of the old statue out of rubber, and then they poured this marble epoxy mixture inside, and it made a perfect recreation of it. I mean, what they had to do is they had to fix up the original so that it would be the way it was, as sharp, because over the years the edges got worn down. You know, it's like acid rain and all that wore it down, because it was. They said that it wasn't the best marble. Obviously, the monument was done on a budget, so there you have it. So
It was the tallest monument in Savannah,
like over 50 feet, I think, something like
55 feet.
55 feet, really? On the column?
The column, yeah.
Column.
And how about the
Statue
the statue
on
alone?
top was 14 feet.
14 feet on the 55 feet
That's
tall?
all?
Yeah, with the base.
Oh,
We
you
only
count
s-
everything,
Yeah,
yeah.
we were at from the feet up, and it was taller than us.
Because she's also holding a staff and the revolutionary cap and the whole 9 yards.
So it was Pulaski's figure, right? The whole body?
No, 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 no. It
The
What are you
was
talking
of
about?
Liberty.
The Lady of Liberty.
or goddess of
Basically,
liberty or whatever.
The same lady that's on the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor.
Supposedly,
Yeah,
that
Patricia.
inspired this. I don't know, but it's been said. It's been said many times. So there you have that part of the story. But when they disassembled the monument, as my boss predicted, they found this box inside, an iron box with bones in it.
Inside where? On the base?
There was a crypt in the base. of the-
Underneath? In the basement
in the-
somehow? Under the
You could say
ground
that, like
level?
in the basement, yeah, of the monument.
Okay.
Of course, to get to it, everything else had to come off. Okay, so they found this box, and a little silver plaque on it. It said, "Casimir Pulaski, Brigadier General," or something like that, and it was engraved in this plaque. So now the question was, how did that get there? Well, Ed Pinkowski had already investigated this. And the story that he followed was Pulaski was taken aboard ship after being wounded, and he died aboard ship, but he died before the ship sailed, because the standard story that was told up until recently was that he sailed out and then died, and the body was put into the sea. So Pinkowski's research revealed that it wasn't. It was taken to a plantation nearby and buried until 1855, when the monument started. And then the family...
The monument was
the
by the
Bowens.
federal government.
To
But
tell you the truth, I mean, the Masons had a lot to
Yeah.
do with the monument too.
This monument is about Lady Liberty. How is it connected to Pulaski?
Well, it has these base engravings on it that have Pulaski falling off his horse. Did you ever see pictures of it?
No,
Okay.
I never saw the pictures of it.
It-
Paul, do you
it
have pictures
is-
of it?
It is the dedicated to Pulaski.
The whole monument
The
is
whole monument, the whole
dedicated,
50 feet of it, with
And-
Lady Liberty
and the
on top.
name of the monument is the Pulaski
The
monument.
yes.
Even it has a Lady Liberty on the top.
Even if it has Lady
Got it.
Liberty on top, yes. So, but it has the arms, that is the coat of arms of Poland and the United States, and that scene of Pulaski falling off the horse, and so it's pretty massive. I mean, if you don't think it's the Pulaski monument, you're blind, my man. You're blind.
All right. Why the location, Savannah, Georgia? Because it happened there.
Well, because yes, the Battle of Savannah.
Okay, that's when
He
he
died
fell
in
down
the
from
siege
the
of Savannah.
horse. He was shot.
Yes.
Okay.
He was rallying the troops, so we're told, at the time, and on horseback. And there's a majestic painting by Batovsky that shows Pulaski in full gallop after, but you can see that he's just been hit. He's kind of falling back. We have a copy of this. What book do you want me to show, Paul?
The one from our seminar in Boston.
The one from our seminar. You have a copy of it.
I have one copy.
Why don't we move to the kitchen then, because the light's better.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Did you see our friend Majewski here?
Much better.
What did he send you now?
He sent me a
Yeah.
delayed in the Bahamas.
In the Bahamas.
Delayed, yeah.
Where did you get the picture of him?
He just enclosed it. It was in an envelope.
No, I didn't get this. I didn't get
What do you
Well,
want to say?
because I'm pressing this gentleman to finance one of my projects. One of my many projects. Somebody would
with all the tropical flowers.
somebody would finance me.
This is our friend Janusz Majewski.
What is the connection to the planes? What's the reason the planes
Oh.
are here? Is he a pilot or something?
Yes, he's a pilot.
He's a pilot, okay.
He goes to the antique air shows.
You're gonna have to wait a minute.
Antique air shows, they have a lot of accidents.
I found it.
Maybe you have a picture of the Pulaski monument in Savannah, Georgia.
Yes,
I
you'll
could,
get it for you.
I could see it.
We have lots of pictures of the monument.
I understand he was a pilot during the
I
war.
have a little thing
No.
here.
Well, because all the medals. Here.
Oh, the
Here,
medals.
explain
This
the
is my
medals.
cousin's project.
Yeah.
He bought this collection of medals.
So you actually buy the medals, you don't get it? You don't.
He bought actually a collection. There were about 14 or 15 frames like this, with everything from the Virtuti Militari to, you know, whatever. These are sports medals from the PRL period.
Got it.
But I have some photos which might be of interest. Actually, this is the book that came out from the conference we went to in 2007.
Okay. Do you have a picture of the monument?
Yes, there is a picture of the
Right
monument.
here. There you go.
Picture of the monument. Okay. and
It's not wonderfully terrific. It's difficult to take a picture of this thing.
the Liberty on the top.
Yep. As a matter of fact, are there any?
This is the Pulaski Monument in Warka, Poland. And this is the Pulaski Monument where
In Hartford.
Hartford, Connecticut. And this is the place I talked to you about where Pulaski met George Washington, the Mullen House.
Close here. You said.
That's near here, right?
And there's a museum there right now. At this place,
Yes, there is.
Washington meets Pulaski and makes him his general because of the Calvary
Precisely.
project.
Now, who's this young lady with you here?
That's Yola.
Young lady.
That's who?
Yola.
That's Yola.
Hayetska, yeah.
Oh, she don't look like her there. This
She
is
looks
the woman
like
that did a movie on Pulaski.
Yes, this lady is was a Polish filmmaker, and she went the whole 9 yards.
Okay,
And
now
actually,
these are the bridges of
Bergen County. Bergen County.
Majewski.
No. This is the Pulaski Skyway.
Oh,
This is,
in Jersey City.
All of these things are Pulaski
this
connected.
is the bridge in Jersey City, the Pulaski
It's an old
Skyway.
1930s postcard. It was George Szymański's dad gave me a bunch of those postcards. I don't know where he came by them, but this is in Elmira. This is Pulaski's headquarters at Valley Forge.
So Pulaski was actually there.
Yes, since those days. But
Oh,
there it is.
that's the statue. It's,
That's on the top. You said 14 feet.
yes, in Trenton in the factory.
She's got the Revolutionary cap, the wreath of victory,
And this is at
and
the
this
base
is the
of
back.
the
That's the back of the thing.
monument.
Is there the front too?
Yes, there is a front
The front
differently.
too. So
And this is Pulaski in Washington.
it's a postcard, not a very good. I have a better photograph of that.
Pulaski, Washington.
Your camera can record all that?
Record all that, yeah.
And this is Pulaski. Where do we see this?
Where do we see this? In Philadelphia, from behind the
Philadelphia.
Art Museum.
That's
Where
right.
do we see it? Oh, jeez, Paul.
There's an old picture of Pulaski.
There was a series of postcards like this. It's Arthur Schick. These were done in the 1930s. I have a couple of them. Some are Pulaski, others are others.
So you're collecting old postcards.
This
Not
here,
really, it's whatever I
this
come
here
across, you know.
is Jamestown, Virginia.
Now we did if you want, I can give you a bunch of these because we did a reproduction of this postcard for the, what was it,
Our convention.
yeah, but it was the what? Which anniversary was it now? 400?
400th anniversary.
400.
Yeah. I explained to him about the first settlers there.
And that's the dark, oh, this is the Batowski painting I spoke of.
Is this the one that's in Chicago?
That's the one that's in Chicago.
This is a huge picture. It sits on a stage
Well,
all
this
by
is a
itself.
reproduction, it's
Yeah.
a print, it's a print actually.
That's
The one
moment
in,
when he gets hit.
Yes, this is where he gets hit.
The
It's-
one in Chicago is the original.
Yes, the one in Chicago, but there are copies of it around, and this was a print that I snapped a photograph.
Right.
But your book, what is it? You said it's about Polonia, and you wanted to know about my boss. Well, my boss, Edward Pinkowski, is, and I can get you a nice photograph of him. He does all this kind of research. I mean, Pulaski was like, he did this research over 30 years of his life. And, but not only that, we have a huge database that's on the internet with all kinds of Polish people who have accomplished all kinds of incredible stuff.
I would like,
And maybe just worked like teachers or bank managers
That's what he
or
needs
stuff.
to look at.
But there are thousands of these people.
well, I would like to meet,
And we're
like,
constantly updating
Can
it.
he go on your database?
Yes, of course. I will tell you where.
is it public?
Yes, right now it's like under construction, but it's whatever's there is available. I'm going to give you my card.
You're doing the project on Polish people in America, right? The famous Polish people in America.
Well,
That's what Paul told me.
essentially what that is it's a big database. We're pulling in any and all kinds of information about Polish people. And this is something that my boss dreamed up. He says, I want to like know everything about everybody. It's just such a huge idea. I mean, it's like, well, let's get a grip on it. So we got some old books out of copyright and we started copying stuff from them. And then we got permission from Wierzbiański, who did a Who's Who, like around 1990. And all those things have been scanned and they're going in slowly. So far we have up to J, all those names, and there are, I think, like over, was it 7,000 or less? It's quite a lot. It's in the thousands.
Do you have pictures of those people and text
Whenever
information?
when they're available, yes, we put photographs in it. Today I was working on do you remember that guy, when we were in Detroit, we went to the Orchard Lake Seminary, and there was that guy, Ovcharski.
You know he died?
I know, that my
I
boss,
see that in the paper yesterday.
well, which paper did you see it in?
The Poland Journal.
Because that's why Pinkowski called me on this. He said, did you know that?
I was surprised that Mary Ellen
I
Tishka.
heard that.
I'm surprised that Mary Ellen Tishka didn't call me and tell me he died.
But that was back in April 15th.
Yeah, but and we were very close friends when he was in Doylestown.
Now, so tell me something else. Yes, and that's when I was telling, I wrote a blurb because I did some research on him and I found some obituaries. And Henrietta Nowakowski is going to send me some more, something a little more comprehensive, she promised. I hope it's more comprehensive. But there was a very strange thing that happened about less than a year before he died. There was a note about him filing a court order to freeze so his artworks wouldn't be removed from that gallery.
In Doylestown.
No, not in Doylestown.
Oh,
at
in
Orchard Lake.
Orchard Lake.
And so I don't know what's going on, or what was going on with that.
This project of yours,
Okay,
is it
this
on the
is
internet?
right here, yeah. If you do this, www.pols.org/db, that means database, what will happen is you will go to a blue screen, and it will have some words on it, some explanations, and it will have the letters A through Z. And if you know somebody, let's say you want to look up somebody like
Blanca.
Pinkoski
Yeah.
or Blanca Rosenstiel, you go to R, and then a list will appear.
Look up Janusz Majewski.
Janusz Majewski is there, among other things.
that's exactly how my website works. You know, I have an alphabetical order, and I have
Yes.
8,000.
You have 8,000 names?
Well, maybe not 8,000 names, but I have 8,000 pictures.
8,000 pictures. Well, maybe we could put the text with the
I'm saying
pictures.
Maybe we
you
could
two
put it
gotta-
together. Could
You
we?
two
Could we?
could coordinate this thing
Yeah.
together.
Well,
maybe.
right now we're finishing this Wierzbiański part of the project. And after we get that done, when all this stuff is uploaded, and this is going to happen relatively soon,
Who does it for you? Who scans all those informations?
well, I have an
That's-
assistant who was doing all this for like the last year or
I have an
more.
assistant. I have 5 assistants that doing this for the last 10 years, and I
Well-
still cannot do it all.
Obviously,
I
you
have
can,
so
see
much material.
you can see the size of the thing, you know, I mean, it's enormous. The scanning actually was pretty simple because we scanned text and converted it, OCR'd it, and then, because then when it's OCR'd,
Optical character recognition.
what you can do is, then you can index everything.
It never works.
What?
It never
well,
works
you have
perfect.
to.
You have to read
okay.
it, correct
It's,
it. And
yes, you have to correct it. Yeah.
this is not just scan and OCR.
Yeah.
While we're talking, can you boil some hot water
Oh,
so I
absolutely.
can drink some hot water?
Absolutely, sorry.
Doesn't even
Paul.
have to be tea.
Paul, can you
I have all kinds of
tell me
crazy teas here
how
if
did
you
you
want.
how did you DNA the bones? How did you?
Well, that's
Oh,
the
well,
problem.
We'll talk about it.
The DNA of the bones, there was a whole team of people. These were forensic doctors, including, what's the lady's name? Flowers, and, no, she was the, hang on, she was the genealogist.
Yeah.
And then there was, what is that name, woman's name?
Are they listed in
Well,
the book?
no, I don't think they're listed in this book, but this was the 2007 conference. There was also a conference in 1997, which was the first international conference on Pulaski, if I can find the book.
Was it a complete surprise for you that those were actually body of Pulaski?
Well,
Nobody knew it before that?
was it a surprise to me? Actually, I sort of got into the job, and then I said, well, my boss is doing this, and it's all really wild that, you know, all this time has gone by. In a way, it was surprising, but I know that history is fluid, if you know what I mean. People sometimes get confused, and certain facts that are known, okay, have to be clarified, and sometimes it comes out that something totally different happened.
So nobody noted it, that he actually was taken off the ship back to the land and buried
Right,
there?
no, because there actually, Ed Pinkoski was working off some documents. If I can only find the book, then I can show you the names and the, it must be again on the stack in my bedroom. Hang on a second.
You were physically there, did you see the bones?
Did I see the bones? I saw them very briefly before they were put into the crypt. Not all the bones were put into the casket, in the crypt. They still are keeping bones for further research when DNA becomes more prolific, shall I say.
To DNA it, you have to have some comparison. What do you have to compare it to?
Well, that's a problem. We went to exhume the body of his aunt outside of Warsaw. But the grave was so contaminated from the war that they couldn't get anything positive. Then we wanted to go to Pulaski's brother, who died in the Ukraine, and he was buried in the crypt of a church in the Ukraine, and the church by the communists was totally destroyed. So you have nothing left there.
Okay.
Communist tak zrobione.
Right. Right. Pulaski didn't have any children.
No, he was single. All kinds of people said they were related to Pulaski, but we here in America, but Kosciuszko pretty well checked all these people out. Just because they had the name Pulaski, they're saying they're related. There's a man in Buffalo who now says they're related to Pulaski, but there's no truth to it. Nobody has any proof positive of the lineage, the family lineage. So.
Right. This would have to be the children of his brother, right? Because since he didn't have
But
any...
the DNA, they say the best DNA comes from a female member of the family.
Okay, so who
Did you know
would
that?
that be? No.
That's why we went to the aunt. Now there was another aunt who's buried in Brooklyn, New York. Because there is no relative here, we could not get permission to exhume the body to do DNA. It only is through a relative who will allow it.
And there's nobody who can
No, nobody here.
give you
Nobody
permission for that.
related.
So you don't have a positive DNA identification for Pulaski.
The forensic researchers have done everything, and in this book there's a big statement. You read the whole thing, and you will know it's Pulaski.
Pulaski.
Yeah. All the
forensic.
characteristics of the person.
Except they couldn't match the DNA. That's the problem.
I know, I'm just what I'm saying.
You know what? I can't find that gold.
But all the
book.
characteristics of
However, I can
Pulaski
show
are
you-
all written
I'm sorry,
in
what
here.
A couple of
characteristics?
things.
What characteristics?
His height, the fact that the legs were bowed from years of riding on a horse.
So probably 90% of people, soldiers have
But
that.
he also had some characteristic wounds on his head and on his arm, which matched up. Although some people said, well, if you are a sword-fighting kind of guy, riding on horseback, you're going to have this kind of wound. So, but how many of these guys? He was short. That was the one thing that kind of...
And the box had
and
some
the
kind of
box
plaque.
had, now, the thing is, of course, some people said, well, these could be mistaken, it could be another soldier, they thought it was Pulaski, all this kind of stuff.
Didn't have
Well, I'm
any...
going to give you these two old newsletters because I have duplicates
Made by the
copies.
Pulaski
No,
Monument.
you've got these.
And
so,
this is St. Hedwig's Church. I brought a choir from Poland to sing at St. Hedwig's
but
Church.
here you have some interesting stories maybe that will inform you. But so you can have these two things.
Thank
These
you.
are extras.
There was
No, I
no...
have extras, yes.
There was no uniform or anything that could
No, the
identify
thing
him?
is they were hoping they would find something, but see, you have to remember, he was first buried on this plantation for X number of years,
That's right.
and then there were souvenir hunters, so not all the teeth were there, and it's kind of difficult to say when they were, taking the, essentially what they did is they just plucked all the bones out. It's amazing that 80% of the skeleton actually was there.
Did you see it yourself? in
I
person?
didn't, but there were photographs of it. As a matter of fact, I will show you a photograph.
Didn't you see the one bone that was retained?
I don't know what they retain exactly,
There was a
but
bone
So they didn't put
retained.
here
everything
is a
inside it.
photograph of my boss, his son, and the forensic team, which was Charles Merbs and
Okay, that's Pulaski.
Kathleen
bones.
Burns, or
Which book is
Karen.
that?
This is my thesis.
Oh, okay.
I wrote my master's thesis on this subject.
Wow.
So,
great.
and I have all these photographs. If you should ever want to use them, I can make them available to you. But essentially, I decided that I would have a little thing. This is my copy. There are two at the university. And
I have to read your thesis.
no,
Let me read it one
Is it
day.
on
one day. yeah.
internet?
Mine got lost in a flood in my house. Sorry.
But the thing is, I was going to say that this is a very interesting book here that gives you a lot of background information. Most of it is correct, except for the part about the birth and the death. Okay, the birth, actually, that's a very interesting situation because Pinkowski actually wasn't the guy who proved that. It was another researcher in Poland. But we went to the church. It's the Holy Cross Church in Warsaw, and they actually had 4 books handwritten from the 1700s, where the priests made entries. First they made them in sort of, you would say, brudnapis. Then they would transfer it to the good book. And because Pulaski received the sacrament first, and then later there was like a continuation of the ceremony with the godfathers, 3 of them, and...
Tell them who his 3 godfathers were.
Well, I can't off the top of my head, but I know one of them was the father of King Stanisław August Poniatowski. Okay. So he was in very good company. His father was a very high-up guy. So Józef Pulaski. But this book...
We're referring to Holy Cross Church
in Warsaw.
Why did you say that there's an error about his birth?
Well, because most people write that he was born in 48, or if you look in this book, which is a fairly nicely done book, it will, somewhere here it will say he was born in like 46 or whatever.
And they say he was born in Warka.
Yes, and they all say
he was not born in Warka,
he was born in Warsaw.
And his parents had an apartment right around the corner from Holy Cross Church.
And of course there are all these stories that have been invented, like the fictitious fact that Pulaski met Kosciuszko in Trenton, okay? Or...
we still hear that story.
We keep hearing this story, but there's like no proof. I mean, it's so... Yes, it would seem like it's logical.
Because nobody has any records on that restaurant. And the restaurant is still there, as you're aware. Have you ever seen that restaurant?
What's the name of it?
No.
Which restaurant is
In
that?
Trenton.
Okay, Pulaski, according to this book, was born on March 4th, 1747. But if you go to those records, you will see that the baptism took place on March 6th, 1745.
2 years before he was born.
2 years before he was born in this book, yes.
Okay. Got it.
So these dates are all over the place. Whatever source you consult, you'll get a different date. And it's not that there was a purposeful error, it was just that people didn't know any better. There was also a famous list of Pulaski clan in Warka, which was compiled by the priest, and that was done in the 18th century. After Pulaski's death, after he was already gone. So that priest just compiled it, but he really didn't know the people. He wasn't there at the baptisms and so forth. So, but everybody who looked at, well, this is like end of 18th century. So it's got to be, it's old, so it's got to be right, because the guy was closer to it, but he wasn't any more right than what other people were. Oh, by the way, this I wanted to show you. This is the who's who of Wierzbiański that we've put into the computer.
Okay, so this is on your site.
This is not all of it. It's just part of it.
Excuse
me? Yes,
Pauls.org.
that's
this
part
book
of it.
is...
It's part of it.
You got permission from the
yes,
author?
Yes, we got permission from Mrs. Wierzbiański.
Maybe we could merge somehow our sites, your site and my site.
It would be great. They would be great.
How many books of these are available?
This you can still buy if you want.
You still buy it.
Yeah, you can still buy it. But the thing is that this is by no means comprehensive.
No.
It just covers certain individuals. Like what they did is they mailed out essentially information sheets. Would you please fill this in and you'll be in the book. And just about everybody who mailed one in made it in. And the idea was, I guess, to sell the book, which is a nice thought. And it was a great thing because then you had like a record of people. But then certain people didn't send stuff in, like Pinkowski isn't in here, for example.
Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of people who are not in there who should be in there.
Well, obviously, so that's essentially, we have to kind of fill in the blanks. But this book is kind of neat because it kind of gives you an outline. There are a lot of photographs, portraits, pictures of medals, pictures of memorabilia, and so forth. But the thing is, like, the place to go, if you're, I don't know, EFG, there is this guy Goralik listed. These are actually, around the world, Polonians. EFG. Here is Mr. Goralik, and he is, Gorayak, excuse me, Gorayak. And he is the designer of the Gorayak Tower in Seattle. And the Gorayak Tower in Seattle looks like the Space Needle, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Now, I would like to, the thing is that he doesn't identify it as the Space Needle. He just identifies it as the Goriac Tower, which kind of sets up now. I try to find him on the internet.
But is this true? That
Well,
is he a designer or the architect or
God
something?
knows. Obviously, like from this bio, which he submitted himself, because he filled out an ankieta biograficzna.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can put anything that they freaking want.
So I can be designer of the Eiffel Tower.
Precisely. You can. I mean, I don't think too many people will believe you, but okay, if you want, you know. The thing is, I would say that he might have been a structural engineer in one of the companies that built this tower.
Right.
And so he felt that he had some stake in it. But I've never heard of this tower referred as the Goriac Tower. You know?
That's right. It's funny. You're
It's
right.
like, just go to Seattle and take me to the Goriac Tower, though. What? So I think that's kind of funny, but it also shows you like the level of the scholarship is that the makers can't possibly check everything. This is one of the places where like these things fall in, you know. It's
On the thing that you're working on, do you
Yes.
have mostly text or mostly videos, pictures? Do you have other media?
It's a mixture, yeah. We have, it's a mixture of photographs, text, and also we've scanned some articles.
And they are OCR or they're just pictures too?
Oh, no, they're just JPEGs,
JPEGs.
yeah.
JPEGs of text. That's nice.
So,
Okay.
because you can't possibly do everything. I mean, especially trying to OCR newspaper text is like, this was actually easy to OCR. Look how beautiful this is. This
Right.
is just super clean.
Okay.
So, and my assistant, what he did is he kind of essentially edited these things.
This doesn't have any pictures, right? Just
No,
the
this
text.
has no photo.
Pure text.
No. Now, the thing that will surprise you to learn probably is that the it's the PAHA, Polish American Historical Association, is putting out an encyclopedia of Poles, okay, which have articles in them, and I wrote 10 of the articles about various Poles. And
Are they connected to America somehow? or-
connected to America somehow, yes. It's like a Polish-American type of encyclopedia. It's sort of the equivalent of this, except I don't know how the graphics were handled, because for some of the people that I wrote up, I have photographs that were mine, or I had them from the estates of the people, or whatever. I mean, I came by them legally, and I had permission to pass the photographs on. So, and I wrote about some individuals that were not very well known. There was a gentleman by the name of Tadeusz Witlin. There was a Józef Witlin. I don't know if you connect these, but Józef Witlin was a poet living in New York. Tadeusz was a journalist living in Washington. And I actually it was suggested to me that I should write my doctorate dissertation on this man, because he wasn't just a journalist, he was also a writer and a poet and the editor of a magazine called America. It was like a propaganda magazine that came out in Poland, in Polish, in the 60s. It started, I think, coming out in the 50s. There was an agreement between Poland and the United States for like a cultural exchange. That was after Gomułka came in. And here in the States, they were circulating a magazine called Poland, which I'm sure you must have seen, maybe not. But it had stuff about Polish posters and Polish science and Polish theater and Polish-American things and visits by dignitaries and whatever.
I've seen it.
You've seen it. Okay, so that was that, but Americans had a similar thing about America in Poland. And to tell you the truth, the thing that attracts me to this topic is because the first issue of that I ever saw absolutely captivated me. It was, yeah, you can just take a picture. It was about, it had the centerpiece story was about the Kennedys, but there was a story about Disneyland, and a story that knocked me out. It was entitled, When a Boy Buys His First Car. The operative word being first, okay? So, it's very nicely done. I mean, in terms of quality of printing, it's just beautiful.
Those are people in France?
All over
Polish people?
The Yudytskis they live in France.
So
They
those
run
are Polish people in France.
Yeah, no, but the individuals are all over the world.
If you ever go to Paris and you go to the Père Lachaise Cemetery, there is a whole section there, all famous Polish people, including Chopin. His grave is there in Paris.
Right. His heart was brought
His
to
heart
Warsaw.
is in
I believe,
Warsaw.
right?
But that's that who's who. Okay. So then there's also an encyclopedia that came out in Poland. It was printed in Toruń that has my picture in it.
Which book in Toruń?
That Encyklopedia Polskiej Emigracji I Polonii or something like
Who
that.
published that?
It was
University?
Kucharski. And it's a 5-volume set, and they're like 800 pages each, and it's this kind of printing. Maybe not quite as nice as this, but it's color pictures wherever they could get them.
But that one's all in Polish.
That one's all in Polish.
Encyclopedia with people or
With people,
okay.
of people, yes, of Polonians all over the world. I mean, I could argue about the whole concept, the way they put it together, and I love that. So you're not the first, unfortunately. I hate to break it to you. But like you said, if you put living people in it and they like it, they'll buy it, you know.
What's the name of your organization you're working for?
I work for the Poles in America Foundation, Inc.
Okay, so this is something like
Maybe
this.
I'll write it on the back.
Please.
Yeah. It's the Poles in America Foundation. Let me give you my telephone number because this just gives me a home number. It's 215-567-0327. So,
Ja myślę, to będzie bardzo zajęty.
this is a very deep topic, you know, when you embark on something like this.
Well, he wants to get more and more involved, so I thought, you know, maybe I suggested him going to Crazy Horse.
I think that project alone, I mean, that's like worth a book.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and this way he'll get to meet some of our people. But should he agree to come, you want me to call Debbie and say he's coming, or you want to tell Debbie? And
Well,
Who's,
you're going
who's
to
Debbie?
is
Debbie Micah,
the president of the ACPC,
ACPC.
the American Council for Polish Culture. It's an umbrella group that the Trenton Club is an affiliate. I belong to the Polish Heritage. I should repay my dues
Yeah,
for
they're
Trenton.
after me for 3 years.
And
ACPC meets at Crazy Horse every year.
American Council for Polish Culture.
no, what they do is they have the convention in a different place every year. Like last year we were in Hartford.
Right.
The year before that we were in Jamestown, or Williamsburg rather.
Yes.
And before that we were in Detroit, and before that,
We were in,
Was it
in Poland.
oh yes, we were in
In,
Poland, that's right.
What city?
Gdańsk.
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 And then a few years before that we were in Kraków. And then a few years before that we were in Pultus. So we had 3 conventions in Poland already.
This book, okay?
Okay.
I acquired this book once belonged to the Salt Lake City library system, and I bought it over the internet. I wanted one, and they have this has been issued as a reprint, but the reprint is really not nice.
Yeah.
It's a smaller size, and
And this has a list of million people.
no, I wish it were had a. It's Konieczek's way of saying, well, there's so many of us, but nobody knows about
You
it.
know who Konieczek was? He lived here in Pennsylvania.
He's another one we have listed. He
Is he still
was a
alive?
writer, a translator, and
In your publication, do you have?
Yes,
do
we
you
have
have
one.
people that are still alive?
yes, there are people in this database. There are
Do
people
you
who are
contact
alive.
them yourself, and do you interview them, or you just take
Well,
existing text and just copy them and...
In many cases, the way we got the text was it was published like in one of these programs. Let's say they were honored for something. So that's like public information, and we just grab it.
So this is not your text, like this. You don't write it yourself about the person. So what do you actually do? Just collect the information
we collect
and put it together on the website?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. You wouldn't like to write about
My
people
boss
that are
writes
alive now?
in many places. Well, let me say this: the 10 items or people that I did for Paha's book.
No, so you have like...
I have those. I wrote those up. For example, Vitlin, I wrote up. Majeski, I wrote up other people. Now the thing is the question is they paid me for the text. It's like, 3 cents a word or whatever. And the texts are short. So I don't know if I can now release it to other people to use, I feel that, it belongs to the world, If they paid me nothing, I'd be happy.
How about new project like this? How about people that are still alive and we visit them? I photograph them and you write something about them upon the
That's
interview.
a lot of work, you know that.
Yeah, but,
because to write a good short paragraph, you really have to think about it, So maybe we'll discuss that part.
Yeah, off camera.
At some point.
But look, the book with text only is is nice, but it's kind of sad. The book with pictures only, it's not a book, it's a photo album. So
you need something
together,
in between,
right? Yeah. Exactly. It should be both.
The book is interesting. Right?
It is a nice book.
I'm looking at the Polish
But
market in Manhattan.
When it got reviewed, when this book got reviewed, it got panned because he made some obvious mistakes. The thing is, you and I wouldn't know it, okay? But an expert, like a historian who studies Polish American history, picks it up right away, And I have the review somewhere, and it was Dr. Who was it that wrote the review? Oh, God, gosh darn it. Can't think of the name. But Pula, Dr. Pula from Purdue, when he reviewed this book, he said, well, it's a nice start, but he got this wrong, and he got this wrong, and he got this wrong, and this picture is not the right picture, and the caption is the years are off. And of course, what he wrote, of course, Kosciuszko had to rely on secondary sources, what was available. So obviously, when he wrote up Pulaski, he put in like 1747, right? Or whatever, for his birthday. He didn't have this information about... What? What did he put in?
They got the sculptor of Pulaski's bust in Washington, D.C.
Mohosky, Sanders.
Mohosky, yeah.
Mohosky Sanders, yeah. Now, one project that I'm working on currently is Ivana Stefaniak in Varka wants to publish a book. It's the Pulaski, she's the director of the Pulaski Museum there. And she wants to publish a book about Pulaski's monuments in the United States. So I started gathering, and you know how many there are? It's like over 100. And there are plaques, and there are other things.
And there are highways and towns and counties and...
That's why I saved stuff like the stamp and the other things, because like these things like, I mean, how do you class stuff like there's Pulaski on stained glass windows at the Czestochowa in Doylestown.
Right.
And he also has a chapel marker in a Protestant chapel in Valley Forge. And so as you start researching these, well, where's the next one? Where's the next one? Where's the next one? And it's endless. It just draws you in. Fortunately, we had this gentleman, John Schuch, out of the Toledo, Ohio, not Toledo, it's Seville, Ohio. And he, as a young man, he got this idea that he would collect things of Pulaski. I visited his house, and it's actually chock full of Pulaski portraits, Pulaski statuettes, Pulaski logos, Pulaski buttons, and he asks people to send him more stuff. So whenever I come across like a Pulaski beer can, he gets that, okay? Or a Pulaski button, he gets that. And then he sends me stuff like, he sent me these pennies that were crushed and imprinted with Pulaski's face. They were elongated. They did it for some kind of anniversary. Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy, but this stuff like medals, there are like different Pulaski medals. I got a Pulaski medal from the Pulaski cadets, and it all kind of accumulates, and this guy's house is like bulging with this stuff.
You couldn't open the
You know
museum.
who's the first man who helped finance America
Finance
and
in
the early
America.
settlers?
Who was that?
Polish
He
Jew.
lived in the Netherlands.
No, you're not.
Peter
Oh,
Stadnitsky.
Stadnitsky, but there is also that Hyman guy
Yeah, I know.
who financed the revolution. He was a
And
Polish
there's
Jew.
this guy in Canada.
Gazowski, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a nice book to have. I mean, if you're into Pulaski, okay, I don't think you're that much into
Oh, my
Pulaski.
It's also about Kosciuszko, I see.
It is also about Kosciuszko.
Did you know that there was an opera about Pulaski?
Yes, it's called Bohiga, Flower of the Forest,
Right.
by
Edward
Sobolewski.
Sobolewski.
Yeah,
I ought to take this book home and read it all the way through.
he loves my books. The Ice of Employment, which was a brewery, got a case of beer, and drove through Texas drinking beer in a convertible, and it was just wild time.
And they were both drunk. Yeah, it'd be.
Well, you were a little bit buzzed, yes. I figured, what
You
can
know-
happen
you know-
to me? I'm with a priest. He'll say their last rites.
You know who a good friend of mine is?
Who's that?
Bishop Andrzej Suski, the Bishop of Tartu in Poland. I was at his ordination. I was at his, when he was installed bishop in Płotz, and then when he was installed bishop of Tartu, and I was there also. We've been friends. And you know where we met? In France. We were at Lourdes, and I was with a friend of mine for the summer, and we were helping to take care of the sick people. And one night when the procession began, each country was represented, and these people were singing in Polish, so I went and joined singing Pogoda Dolina. And there was Andrzej Suski, and we were working together, and we were speaking French, working together, and he didn't know I knew Polish till that night.
Boy, you must have surprised the hell out of him.
I was surprised to see him, too. So I was invited to all his occasions in Poland.
What is in Panna Maria, Texas right now? What is
What
this?
is it? There's
The
the
church is
church
there.
is in
The
here.
church is still there.
Church is there, there's a museum, and there's a lot of Polish people. Nearby is Kosciuszko,
Pawełkville,
yeah, all kinds of Polish.
Czestochowa.
Czestochowa.
We went through all those times because what happened was the soil around Panna Maria was very rocky. I boiled some water, Paul.
That was like 2 hours ago. I'm joking.
Let me just, I'm sure it's
Panna
still hot,
Maria.
but let me just hit the button here.
Oh, I tell you, but we've done an awful lot of things.
It's like
Peter and I
this stuff will
traveled,
drive you crazy. You have to
Peter and
kind
I
of turn it off
traveled the
after a
United
while.
States in his car. In my car, his car, his
My God,
father's
we went
car.
to Detroit and somebody's
Cleveland,
car.
Detroit.
To Savannah, I don't know how many times we went down
We
to
made
Savannah.
about 10 trips to Savannah for the funeral, working on the funeral.
How long is the drive to Savannah, Georgia?
12 hours, straight through.
Start at 6 in the morning, we're there at 6 in the afternoon.
That's not bad.
No. Essentially, if you have a number of people who can share the driving, it just, and that Yola, that woman that you saw in the photograph,
Filmmaker.
yeah, she says,
She loved driving, and
she
she
says,
drove
can I drive? I said, be my guest, So she got in there.
She
right
drove
down.
right through from Savannah to
I think she
Philadelphia.
drove from about, we were down in the,
Well, she drove all the way to Washington.
we were past, no, we picked her up in Washington.
No, in Savannah, coming back.
Oh, coming back.
She drove all the way to Washington.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. But going down, I remember, when did she take over? I'm trying to think. We were down a ways, and then we let her have the wheel and just sat back.
Those were the days when I would walk normal. I wouldn't be able to do it now. Oh, God.
You're gonna go to Crazy Horse?
Yeah.
Yes, I want to go. My problem is the transportation because I'm on a very strict budget, unfortunately.
Are you going to fly out or what?
No. It's like, if I can't get a ride with somebody, to share the costs, I think what I'm going to do is just get on the bus and get there like 2 weeks later.
How many days? What is
It's
that?
about-
South Dakota?
It's about 3 days.
3
To
days.
drive?
Yeah,
3 days to drive?
because the way when the girls from Detroit were thinking of
Yeah.
taking me along, what I was going to do is drive to Detroit like in 1 day, which is quite
Yeah.
possible.
Detroit is like what, 12 hours? 13 hours?
No.
Less than that. I
Less
think
than
9.
8 hours,
9.
9
Really? It's
hours.
closer than Chicago?
Oh, definitely
Oh,
Detroit.
yeah.
Absolutely. It's not even, well, it's like not even 3/4, like 2/3 of the way.
Yeah.
It's,
I've
okay.
driven them all,
And
I
then?
don't remember.
And then we were going to start off together, but that is from Detroit. But what I want to do is these marker, the Gabreski marker, which you will read there on the second page. That was tea, Paul?
Just water even. This, oh,
Water. Let me see. Would you like some cranberry juice? That's all I've got.
okay,
Like
just
no
put
milk.
something in to take the water flavor away.
One of those
You
markers
want
is...
regular tap water or?
Nothing wrong with our tap water.
No, nothing wrong.
No, in the hot water, pour it in the
Oh,
hot
you want it
water.
in the hot water?
Yes, in the hot water. That's
Paul, let me do this for you. Here. You will set the ratio of mixture for
I
yourself.
use 3/4 of water. 3/4 of water.
3/4 of water. Say one. About there.
Yeah,
And,
that's okay.
If necessary, I will drain it. If it's-
Yeah, I'm gonna just warm my throat.
There's this marker that you
Careful, I
wanna...
don't think I tightened that right.
I started talking about the Gabreski marker. There are people in Pittsburgh who are going to be the actual. Did you want something?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Who are the actual organizers of the ceremony, the dedication, the banquet to go with it. Because it was, when I made the application, it turned out that it was too far of a reach. It's like 250 miles. You know, I mean, to drive there, make the arrangements, come back, drive, make the arrangements, come back. Pittsburgh is a lot closer. They can do it all in 1 day, you know. So it's the Kosciuszko Foundation Pittsburgh chapter. And it's John Bartas, who's the president, and I convinced him that they wanted to do it. So all the paperwork was taken care of, so they didn't have to bother with that, and I promised that this gentleman would be the sponsor. So I'm working on him.
Is he sponsoring it?
I don't know, I need to, maybe I'll call him tomorrow to see if, because he was, he was going to China. He went to the Bahamas, then he went to China, so. But he said that it's something that his company could sponsor. He says, but he doesn't make the decision by himself, obviously. So I'm just hoping he will say yes, so we can move ahead with this thing, because the group wants to do it like in October.
I talked to his wife a couple times, but he never calls me back.
Well, I have no problem. I call him at work, and I tell the secretary says,
Yeah, but
you know,
every
who
time
are
I
you?
call, he's away.
well, that's what I want to find out, is when is he going to be back, so I can kind of put the.
Well, if he's in the office, he
Lunch
talks
time.
to me, but if he's not in the office, I have no way of
Be
talking.
patient. You can't, you know, this is a
Well,
guy who.
and I got so sick this year, I just gave up on everybody.
So now you can come back.
How many times did you come and see me in the hospital? Each time?
I don't know. I guess each time you were there. The first time, the second time.
And the third time.
Yeah. But to make a long story short, with this marker is, it's all coming together, and you know, like it or not, it's going to happen.
Well, there is a marker in Pittsburgh already.
But I want to stop. Well, there's that one marker that we went to photograph.
Yeah, and that was
went up
for who?
and down the hills.
That was for who?
That was for Paderewski. It was this marker here, the Polish Army marker.
So on
You'll find the history of Paderewski in America very interesting.
Yeah, I got him. I think he's one of the biggest too. Kosciuszko, Pulaski, Modzelewska, and Paderewski. This is the sequence, I think. So on your way to Detroit, you're gonna photograph this marker?
Well, no. Well, this marker. Yes, we photographed. I think we were on our way to Cleveland. We photographed this marker. I'll show you. But the marker I'm talking about for Gabreski is, like I said, in the process of becoming. And what I want to do is stop in Pittsburgh on my way out to this convention and talk to these people personally to encourage them. And here's the Polish Army marker. This is in front of a Falcons Hall. I actually have a good picture of this somewhere. But
so we'll drive to Detroit and then with
well,
two other ladies.
Right now, well, if
that's
that was the original plan, but it's not
Rapids.
working out that way. So I have to find some other ways. Like I said, at worst, I'll hop on the bus.
What's the airfare there?
I have no idea, but it's probably like $500.
400 Dana said.
Well, Peter, because I know I owe you a treat. If I get
You don't
that
owe
check,
me
I don't know
anything.
when I'm going to get that check. I'll
Well, the
give it
thing-
to you.
Yeah, if you give me some money, I'm going to use it to pay my taxes or something, you know, because I am, like I tell you, I'm going to be, when I pay my taxes at the end of
just
July,
signed off.
I'm going to be broke.